Alright guys, welcome back. How you doing? I hope everyone is good. Thank you very much for tuning in. Really appreciate it. As always, shout out to all the subscribers and gratitude to anybody new. Welcome along. Let's talk about this fight. Jai Opetaia potentially fighting Dmitry Bivol. Obviously, it's been talked about. Big Turkey Ala Sheikh wants to make this fight. Both guys have essentially agreed to it. And this is one of the reasons why I love Jai Opetaia so much. Look at his face. I'll leave this interview.
I'm a massive Bivol fan, but I also look at Bivol as like, hey, if you want to come up to the cruiserweight, you know what I mean? That's a potential opponent because there was talks about it. So, you know, and that's a respectfully thing. You know what I mean? I'd love to share the ring with him. But yeah, man, it's exciting.
Look at his face when he's talking about fighting Dmitry Bivol. I mean, this is a guy that wants to fight the best, but he's actually genuinely excited to fight these guys, you know, and that's like, you know, that makes the sport so much better. I mean, he generally loves the opportunity to fight the top guys. Bivol was obviously, look, he's got some serious business ahead of him. He's got this Better Beer fight, which, by the way, I'm going to be making hopefully a pretty epic film study / preview promo breakdown for that. It'll probably take me quite a while. It took me quite a while to do the Matthias Para one, thanks to anybody that watched that. There was some audio issues I had. I'm going to try to clean that up. It took me a long time, so by the time I got to the audio, I just kind of wanted to get it out. But I'll clean those bits up and, you know, appreciate anybody that watched and commented on that. But that's kind of the direction I'm going to go for the big fights, but maybe shorten the video a little bit. But anyway, for that's going to be, I'll probably have that out in September. But the actual fight, and Dmitry Bivol was, you know, being respectful, saying, you know, we'd like to do it.
His Excellency Turkey Ala Sheikh, he saw us together and he's like, let's make fight for you. I told him, you know, to be honest, I want to finish business in my weight class. Nothing else, you know, and then we could make fight.
But there's a couple of questions I've got about this fight. I'd love for you guys to give me your take on it, because, you know, I'm very excited about this fight. However, I do wonder what weight it's going to be at, right? And I also wonder what both fighters are going to look at that weight, right? Meaning, okay, so Jai Opetaia is obviously a cruiserweight, 200 pounds, chunky guy, do you know what I mean? He's obviously going to come down in weight, so this will be a catch weight. I don't usually love catch weights, which is why you know, I'm not saying I'm not excited about it. I am, but catch weights for me are always a bit weird because I don't want to see somebody looking a little bit unnatural, you know. For example, Ryan Garcia against Tank Davis, you know, he just looked scrawny and he looked gaunt, he looked weak. You know, I don't want to see Opetaia looking. I don't think he will, by the way. I just think, I wonder what weight it will be at, where they're going to go to, because Bivol, so you got Opetaia talking about going to bridgerweight or even heavyweight at some point, right? He's talked about that.
Definitely, it's definitely a plan in the future, you know what I mean? But once I go up to heavyweight, I want to stay there, you know what I mean? I don't want to have to go up, come back down, go up, come back down. So I want to do my cruiserweight business now, and then once I go up, I want to stay up and then do what I got to do up there.
Previously several times. I mean, this is the desire this guy has. He wants to go up and fight the big boys at heavyweight at a later date. So he can obviously, you know, he's a chunky, I say chunky, he's a solid guy. And he's a big man. And Bivol was talking about fighting Canelo at 168. He actually said he could get down to 168 quite easily.
If I'm not mistaken, you'll go down to 168, 175, but where are you comfortable the most at this moment?
At this moment, I would like to fight 168 against Canelo for the belt. Not for, if I fight against him, I want to fight for the belt.
So the disparity in their body sizes is definitely there. So what would Bivol go up to? He said he walks around not too far from his weight. So 175 is light heavy. So what does Bivol walk around at? 180, 185. So he's going to go up to 190 maybe. Ooh, yeah, I don't know. That probably is okay, to be honest with you. I just wouldn't like to see or have any disadvantages from either fighter. You know, I think it's such a tremendous fight. And obviously their styles are similar. You know, they have that Eastern European style. Bivol has it down to a T with an American twist. And now I've, like, before I do that Bivol Beterbiev film study. I'm going to start working on this, the art of perfection, and I'll leave at the end of it, right? Maybe I've already dropped it already, but it's going to be missing some narration, but that's the intro to the documentary. Yeah, it's about Bivol. It's about his footwork. It's about his mentality. It's about how he trains and how it comes out into the ring. And I've done quite a bit of research on, just even stuff like, the footwork, the ankle training that they do in Russia to get their ankles tighter so they can have more dynamic movement on the ground. It's really fascinating. And if you watch Bivol's footwork, it's just absolutely extraordinary for such a big man, how he moves his feet so quickly. And we're going to go into detail, and it's just going to be some music, kind of like the film study I just did with Matthias and Paro, but not as bouncy and hyped up. It's got music in it, but it's more emotional, I think, really. But there is some training clips and stuff. It's going to be a deep project. It's going to take me a few weeks, but I have been talking about that a while. I just had to put it on pause for a bit because it's like a painting. I have to just leave it for a bit and come back to it and just think, well, all right, I can't do it sometimes. Anyway, I've lost my train of thought. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, so Bivol, his footwork is just exceptional, right? And his lead hand as well. And this is actually a main part of this fight. And if you look at their lead hands, right? Bivol's lead hand, not just jab, but what he does with that lead hand, how he jabs, how many different types of jabs he has, from jab into the stomach, from a volume jab to just a sharp stinging jab to a probing jab where he can maneuver your guard and then come in with a 2 or whatever combinations he has. But that jab and that lead hand, he can use it defensively at 2. That's going to be spoken about in the documentary. And his defensive responsibility is ingrained in him from training, and that's part of it too. But part of that is his lead hand too, where he uses it to blind his opponents, maybe offensively or on the way out too, to use it as like a that long guard, as a protective kind of safety net, if you will. And his Opetaia's lead hand is nowhere near as developed as you would expect. He's still got a long way to go, and he's got his own strengths, but his lead hand could use a lot of work. And I know he obviously has a very similar style to Usyk and Bivol, but his own thing. I say similar just in the sense of the pattern and the rhythm, but the lead hand is the big difference for me, because Usyk, if you watched Usyk, he doesn't do it as much, but he really uses that as like I've called it a magic wand before. So it's like he's like a magician. So it's like a distraction, and then he's setting up his other punches, but it takes you off, and he'll use it in such a range like this against Bellew. I'll try and pull up some clips where it's like mesmerizing. It's just a magic wand. To take you away from what you're doing, and it just makes you think mentally and absolutely drains you. So for me, Opetaia's got a bit of learning to do with the lead hand. That would be, for me, if he gets some education on his lead hand and he ups his inside game, he's going to be an absolute monster. He will be anyway, to be honest with you. He'll be in the mix with a lot of the top guys, but if he really wants to be an elite fighter, just my personal opinion, I think his lead hand could use quite a lot of work, because sometimes he uses it, but it just doesn't look like there's a lot of purpose to it. It looks like it's out there and he's trying to use it as a distraction, but there's not the full education as you'd expect. These guys we're talking about are some of the best in the game right now. I mean, these two fighters are, I don't normally talk about pound for pounds, but if Usyk, really, given what he's done, and Bivol should be right up there, I think, really. Both of them are amazing fighters, and that's, that would be an amazing fight between Opetaia and Bivol. And they're just not as amazing as Bivol and Beterbiev. That, for me, is an amazing fight. I cannot wait for that. I was so disappointed when that fight fell through. Just the stylistical matchup, and it's a shame because now Biev's body's breaking down and stuff like that. And I was like, I was favouring Bivol, not strongly, but I wasn't on the 50-50 thing. I was the more I'd looked into Bivol, the more I was like, he's going to outbox as long as you stay off the ropes, which he's disciplined enough. There's another thing about Bivol. He's very disciplined, extremely disciplined, but he's extremely stoic as well. And there's someone that showed up in my comments, shout out to you if you're watching. He mentioned Bivol as, elite mentalities. And I couldn't agree more. And I've been saying that too, because he's a low-key stoic, right? He's low-key mentality in the sense that no one really talks about him as some of the elite mentalities, at least not from what I've seen. And this guy that said it, I was like, bro, I could not agree with you more, because he's had adversity against Barrera, right? Early on in his HBO days, I'll pull up some clips. He had a massive lump on his head.
But you see why these kind of fights are important no matter how good a prospect looks.
I don't know what you call it.
In terms of developing a prospect into a real world champion.
I'm not even sure of the technical name, but it was a brutal lump.
This is the kind of experience should Bivol go on to win this fight. Right
there. And he had just the same stoic face on him, still got, on with the job.
That he'll be able to take to yet another level of opponent.
And ended up stopping Barrera, and it just didn't look like he really, you wouldn't know that he had that on his head the way he was fighting.
If and when that opponent should push Bivol physically and damage him, and Bivol, has to deal with that.
And he saw through the adversity, and he can go to levels that he's not even really needed to outside that Barrera fight, I think, And obviously we know Opetaia is an absolute animal, and he's been through, one of the most savage rounds or savage fights against Bradis, the first one. Even the second one, Bradis had him buzzed a couple of times, I think.
The king of snake eyes as Opetaia is stepping in now.
Good shot there, good uppercut there from Bradis.
That was a really interesting fight. Obviously he dominated Bradis early. Bradis was being very cagey.
And yeah, there is a lot of blood coming out of the nose now of Opetaia. This is the best moment of the fight for Bradis.
Probably part of the game plan. He's a bit older. He was kind of waiting his spots, and I think he was a bit maybe more cautious and didn't want to get stunned again or fight Opetaia like he did in the first fight, because he got stunned early, and Bradis got his nose busted up again, and then he came on, and he's a sneaky fighter, and Opetaia had a lot of respect for him post-fight, as you would. He's a great champion. Bradis was a great champion, great fighter, and he gave Opetaia a decent little scare at the end there. Good fight towards the end. But I think Opetaia would have learned a lot from that, I really do. It's one of those real learning fights where he perhaps, not took his foot off the gas. Maybe he did, but just like, never count out a top fighter that can really turn a fight around in a second, and Bradis caught him. I don't know, it was like a 2-1. Very classic Eastern European shot, actually. But back to the fight. I think it's a really tremendous fight. I'd love to know your thoughts on what weight you think it will be at, and what you think about how big Bivol will be, and will it affect his speed, and will it affect Opetaia when he comes down 10 pounds. 10 pounds, I think if he's a consummate professional like he is, and he's in the gym all the time, I don't think that's a big deal. But again, you know what I mean? I wouldn't want it to be 185 where he's coming down 15 pounds. That might sound a little bit too low to me. But then I wouldn't want Bivol to go up too high and look a bit chunky and take away from his speed. But I don't know. Yeah, it's a great fight, and thanks again for people that recommended this. And look, I'm always welcome for recommendations for videos. I will eventually get to it, because I've got a lot of projects on the table right now. I can't wait to get them out to you. Thank you for anybody new locked in as well. Shout out to all the new subscribers, and if you made it this far in the video, peace and love to you. Thank you very much. What day is it today? Wednesday? Wednesday. Alright, it's the middle of the week. I was going to say have a good weekend, but we're not there yet. But enjoy the rest of your week. Let me know your thoughts, and I will talk to you guys on the weekend. I'm going to go live for the Matthias Parro fight. So, peace. I'm out.
Because I'm in boxing since I remember myself.
A masterclass from Dmitry Bivol, one of the pound-for-pound best in the world.
my coaches said me before. You can be the best fighter in the world. Because I'm in boxing since I remember myself, and all my coaches said me before, you can be the best fighter in the world.